Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So we will continue with our discussion, what is the self? So from various perspectives, the Guru is highlighting the definition of self, the self which cannot be objectified. Is very, that way anything which cannot be objectified is very difficult to be defined. So we find that the Guru is resorting to various perspectives to give an idea, an inkling of what the self is. So here now we'll find that the next verse which we are going to take up today is the 133rd verse. So what the idea here is that whatever we perceive is nothing but the self projected as the universe. So as we say that when I am seeing a snake in a rope, the snake is nothing but the rope. The rope is being projected as the snake because of ignorance, because of my delusion. I see the rope as the snake. So I can easily say that the snake is nothing but the rope. So here also the same idea. We'll find that whatever we perceive is nothing but the self which is being projected as the universe. So what the 133rd verse states, Gyata manah ahankriti vikriyanam dehendriya prana krita kriyanam ayah agnivat tan anuvartamana na cheshtate na vikaroti kinchana. So Gyata, the word Gyata means the knower. So the Atman is the knower. Of what? Of the mana, of the mind. Ahankriti, of the ahankara, of the sense of ego. Of the mind, of the ego. And then vikriyanam, whatever activities is going on in the body. So vikriyanam indicates all the activities that are going on in the body. So of that also the Atman is the knower. Dehendriya, of the senses and of the vital forces. Dehendriya, prana, of the senses, of the vital forces. Krita kriyanam, and all the activities that ensues from the senses and the vital organs. They all, or the self is the knower of them all. And then the second line. The second line is something very important, very nice example Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is giving to explain the fact that Atman is beyond all attributes. It has no shape, it has no form, but it takes the shape or the form of what it is illuminating. So what it is saying? Ayah agnivat tan anuvartamana. So just when you are hitting an iron, suppose it is an iron ball, the fire has no shape, but it will take the shape of that iron ball. It will appear as if the fire is spherical. If it is an iron rod, the fire will appear as cylindrical. So, as per the shape of the thing which is being heated up by the fire takes its shape, but the fire itself has no shape. So that's the verse. Ayah agnivat, just like the fire, when it is hitting a piece of iron, this ayah is the iron. So ayah agnivat tan anuvartaman, it takes the shape of the object. The fire takes the shape of the object of which it is hitting, though it has no shape of its own. Na cheshtate, na vikaroti kinchana. It neither acts, cheshtate means it neither acts, na vikaroti, nor does it gets affected by anything else. So nor it affects changes in anything. So na vikaroti na kinchana. So this is the simple idea which we find again and again. The scripture is saying the self is beyond all attributes, but the self, when is projected as the universe, takes the shape as if of the object. So this, when an iron ball, when the ball of iron is put in the fire enters and assumes its shapes. But can we say that the fire is round like the ball of iron? The fire has no form, but it takes the form of the thing it affects and yet remains formless. So similarly, we can say that the Atman seems to assume forms of ego, of mind, of the senses, and of the diverse functions of the body. But actually, it does none of these functions. It neither acts nor is subject to change in the least. So, na cheshtate, na vikaroti kanchana. So that is the one aspect. Another thing, fire by itself does nothing. It is not that the fire is hitting the iron ball. I cannot say the fire is as if the doer. The fire by its nature itself gives heat. Whatever is in its presence gets heated up and takes the shape. The fire takes its shape. The two things happen. Whatever is in the presence of the fire that gets heated up, that's one thing. And the fire as if takes the shape of the object which it is hitting. But nothing is as if done by the fire as a doer. It gives the heat. Whatever will be in its presence, it will get heated up. So that's the thing. So fire does nothing. Heat is its very nature. And anything coming in contact with it gets heated up. So similarly, the Atman, the pure consciousness itself, and what happens, that whatever it is coming in association with, the senses, the mind, the ego, they start appearing to be conscious. They are as such not consciousness. So when they are in association with each other, they take each other's characteristics, and that's how we get deluded. It's just like a red flower when you keep in the proximity of a prism, or say a diamond. When you keep a red flower in the proximity of the diamond appears to be red. If you keep it in the proximity of the prism appears to be red. The prism has not really become red. It has not been affected anyway because of its association with the flower. As it is being kept near the flower, it is in no way affected, but it appears as if it tinged with the color of the flower. So similarly, that all these body, mind, senses, which appears as something conscious, is actually inert. In the presence of the self, they appear to be consciousness. So that's the idea, these two ideas. That the objects take the shape of consciousness, and also that the thing which has no shape appears as having shape and form, and the thing which is inert appears to be conscious because of its association with the Prakriti. So, as we have explained it again and again, that how actually this thing is happening, what's the actual phenomenon behind this procedure of consciousness appearing as the world. The mind, when it is in the state of unmanifestation, when it is unmanifested, that's what is called in the scriptures avyakta. As we gave the example, when I am in deep sleep, is my mind vacant? No. All the impressions of this world are there hidden in the mind. When I am in deep sleep, they are all dormant. When I wake up, I look out, I see the beautiful scenery outside. So the mountain ranges I see. I wake up. So how it is seeing? I am seeing. It's not that something is outside which I am seeing. Of course there is something outside. But what I am seeing is the projection of the consciousness. Something outside is stimulating the My eyes are as if uh, perceiving the light waves, and those light waves are getting transformed into the nerve current, which is going to this visual perception centers. And these visual centers, all these perceptions were lying dormant in my mind, in the Vyakta. The moment a particular wavelength of light getting converted into a particular nerve current is going to my so-called brain, which is the organ for the mind, only a particular information among infinite information which is in my mind is being activated. And the consciousness, when comes in association with that activated information, that consciousness itself takes the form of that object and is projected out. What I am seeing is the consciousness projected out in a particular form. Just the way the iron ball, when I am keeping it in presence of the fire, the iron ball looks like a red hot fireball, though the fire has as such no shape. Similarly here, it is a consciousness. When it is coming in association with that particular information, a particular set of information which defines the mountain, it comes in association with that, it is the consciousness alone which is being projected. So what I am seeing is actually what is projected by the mind, being activated by the consciousness. What I am perceiving, that I don't see. It's just there is a particular stimulus, but what it is always unknown. I can never know that. What only I can say, that it is existence. Something is existing. That's why Vedanta again and again says that what I can say about this creation, that it is an existence, asti. There is something. But when I'm trying to see it, it is always a consciousness which is being projected in a particular form, and actually it is a consciousness which is taking the form of all the objects, the nama, rupa, whatever I am saying. So that's the idea we find is being explained in this verse. So now let's proceed. So this verse mentioned that whatever we perceive is nothing but the self projected as the universe. So the next verse will just almost conclude the section of the definition of the self, of the Guru's answer to the disciples' question that what is the self. So in another 2 verses, the Guru is going to conclude his discussion on the self, and then he will explain that how to realize that self. So first let us go to those 2 verses with which he is going to conclude the definition of the self. So what he is saying, the next verse, that the self is something which is changeless and which is indivisible. There is no change. It has no parts. It is indivisible. Before going to this verse, let us try to understand the idea of indivisibility as has been described by Swami Vivekananda in one of his lectures. It's not actually a part of the lecture. When Swami Vivekananda was speaking of that ultimate realization where we lose as if our individuality. So this, for a person who is very new to this concept, sometimes may get scared because we are so much attached to our individuality. As we find in the Gospel, Sri Ramakrishna is saying that when we go to that ultimate realization, that we are like a salt doll. Salt doll is trying to measure the depth of the ocean. It goes and just touches the ocean, and immediately it becomes one with the ocean. It melts. How can it measure the depth of the ocean? It just becomes one with it. So when we hear this idea for the first time, of course many get scared. So one lady from the audience stood up, interrupted Swamiji, and told Swamiji, that when you say of the ultimate realization that we become one with the Absolute, what happens to my individuality? And Swami Vivekananda's reply was, Madam, you are not individuals yet. You become individual when you become one with the Absolute. So it's a very interesting idea. If you even try to understand what Swamiji is saying from etymological point of view, that the word individual, what its etymological meaning is, you will find what Swamiji is saying is something wonderful. That what etymologically the word individual means? The word individual means that which cannot be divided. Individual. That which is not divisible. That which cannot be divided is individual. In this creation, whatever I see is actually a component. Anything which is having a name and form, you will find at last it is a conglomeration. There are some subtle cause which finds expression as the effect. It is a conglomeration of so many components. The only reality, the absolute reality, which is beyond this projection, is beyond all so-called conglomeration of components. It is not a composite of parts. It is as it is. There is no, as such, components of it. So now the thing which has no component can never be divided. Anything which has components, which is a conglomeration of components, can be divided. We as a body, in the physical level, we are made of innumerable cells, organs, limbs. It can be divided. They are all various parts. The mind has various thoughts. It's a component. We have various mental modules. This speaks of components. So whatever I see in this creation has all components. So how can I say that they are individual? That which has component can be divided. Only the self. When we become one with the self, then only we become individual. So now you will understand when Swamiji is saying that you are not individuals yet. You become individual when you become one with the Absolute. So with this idea, now let us enter into the verse which Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is stating. What is saying? Na jayate, na mriyate, na vardhate, na kshiyate, na vikaroti nityaha, viliyamane api vapushi, amushmin, na liyate kumbha eva, ambaram swayam. So almost similar idea we find in Bhagavad Gita, we find in Kathopanishad. Even the words of the verses to certain extent are similar of what we find in Bhagavad Gita, of what we find in Kathopanishad. What it is saying? That it is neither born nor dies. Na jayate, na mriyate. And then, na vardhate, na kshiyate. It neither grows nor decays. So by saying this, it is denying the Shada Vikara, the sixth type of transformation which we see of any object in this world. If we see our life, that we will find that we go through 6 transformations. Jayate, first we are born. Asti, we exist for certain duration of time. And at the beginning of that certain duration of time when you are existing, at the beginning there is growth. Vardhate, a small infant becoming kid, this and then becoming a teenager, is growing, becoming a middle-aged person. Vardhate. And then comes viparinamate. The transformation starts, growth stops, aging process starts. And then after some time, kshiyate, the process of decay starts. And then at last, nasti, that is indicated by the word mriyate. You don't exist anymore. So we are going through these 6 changes. The self, in whose association this body appears to be alive, there is no change for him. It is as it is. So that's why it is indicated na jayate, na mriyate, na vardhate, na kshiyate, na vikaroti. There is no transformations. Vikara. Vikara means there is no change in it. Nitya. It is eternal. It is the only thing which can be defined as Sat. In Vedanta, Sat, the truth, is something which is Nitya. Otherwise everything is projection. That why when I am watching a movie in a screen, Why I think that it is not real? Because I know it is being projected. The projection has started at some point of time, it is going to end at some point of time. What remains eternal is the background, the screen. So whatever is moving on the screen is not real. It is just a mere projection. The thing which is the background on which all these changes are appearing, that is the thing which is eternal. So Nitya means Sashvata. Nitya means that which is eternal. So in Sanskrit, Nitya is something which is Sat. That is the only truth. And what is the definition of truth? That which exists at any phase of time, past, present, future, whose existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present, and future. It was, it is, it will be, without any transformation, in eternal present. These words we use again and again. What is the idea of this eternal present? Yes, the concept of time always comes with transformation. If there is no transformation, you are as you are. You are as if in that eternal presence, without any past, without any future. You are as you are. So these are the terms which we find even in other religion. Those who have had that mystic experiences, the idea, this experience of unity, they all somehow are, the language echoes. Maybe it's not exactly same. We will find the echo of this idea of non-duality is there in all such experiences. The word eternal present is, if we have extracted it, actually is not in Vedanta way we find this word, because after all Vedanta is a Sanskrit. The word eternal present is from Meister Eckhart, a Christian mystic, who used to speak of this eternal present. The essence of our being is an eternal present. So that's the thing, that's the idea. Nityaha, Vilyamane api, Vapushi amushmin. Vilyamane api, Vapushi, this body, this will decay, this will fall off. But the self remains. It does not cease to exist, even when this body is destroyed. Naliyate kumbha eva ambaram swayam. Now again Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is giving a wonderful example. It is just like the space. When I have a pot, the pot divides the space as if into something external, Mahakasha, and something which is inside the pot, the space inside. It is Kumbhakasha, Kumbha Akasha. The Akasha, the space within the Kumbha, within the pot. It is the same space. Somehow the pot has divided this space into this Mahakasha, the external space, and the space within the Kumbha. Is there any real differentiation there? No. You break the pot, it's again the same only. So says a self is also something unchangeable. Because of the body, it appears as if that there is a barrier between me and what lies outside. That everything outside is something other than me, and here, that within me is something which is the real core of my being. So this idea of me and something apart from me, this is because of ignorance. The self, just like that ghata akasha, the akasha, the space within the ghat, which is have no as such separate existence, is the same akasha as the mahakasha. But because of the barrier of the ghata, it appears as if the ghatakasha has an existence, but it is actually one with this mahakasha, the space. So similar as Swami Sri Ramakrishna also gives similar type of example, that in the ocean, the moment you immerse a pot, a little amount of ocean water enters into the pot. And now I say this is the water of the pot and that is the water of the ocean. And he's saying this wall of the pot is our ego. That differentiates me from the non-dual eternal existence. but there is as such no such divisibility. So that's the idea which we find is being indicated in this. The self is changeless, it is as it is. All this differentiation is because of the ignorance, as if creating barrier, where these barriers are apparent. When the body falls off, it is again, when the pot breaks, the space within the pot is one with the external space. Similarly, the self, which I am think is as a discrete unit, as if I am separate from the entire existence. So that's what Shankaracharya, Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya is saying. It is not separate. It is one with the non-dual self. When the body falls off, when our ignorance falls off, at last the Atman becomes one with the Brahman. So that's the idea in this last phrase. Naliyate kumbha iva ambaram ivam. Ambaram is the sky within the kumbha, within the pot. Just like that, even when the body falls off, this body is like a pot. Our self is like the Akasha. It becomes one with the Absolute Self. So, after this wonderful allegory in the 134th verse, now in the 135th verse, with which Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya will be concluding the definition of the self. What is saying? The self illumines everything. Whatever we see with that idea. So what is saying? Prakriti Vikriti Bhinnaha Shuddha Bodha Swabhava Sat Asat Idam Ashesham Bhasayan Nirvisheshaha Vilasati Paramatma Jagrat Adisu Avasthashu Aham Iti Shakshat Shakshi Rupena Buddhehe. So the Supreme Self, which is different from Prakriti Vikriti. What is Vikriti? The Prakriti speaks of the undifferentiated nature. Just that example, let us try to understand that as in Vedanta, they always say, to understand the macrocosm, try to find out how the microcosm is working. That's very easy to find out. Once I know how the individual is working, as Swami Vivekananda had that wonderful realization when he was in Almora, that the microcosm and the macrocosm are built on the same plan. So that's how in Vedanta they will always through inference go to the conclusion of something which relates to the macrocosm by trying to find out the phenomenon behind the microcosm. As Sri Ramakrishna used to give a nice example, when in a pot the rice is boiling, you are cooking the rice, how to find out whether the rice has been cooked? Just one rice you have to pick up and press it between your fingers, and if you find it is soft, you know it for certain, all the rice has become soft. You need not have to press each and every rice one by one. So, by knowing the nature of one rice, I know the nature of all the rice. So that's the idea of this microcosm and macrocosm is built in the same plan. So now, Prakriti Vikriti Bhinna, the entire nature came from that unmanifested Prakriti. In the macrocosm, how to find out? See in the microcosm. When I'm in deep sleep, the same thing which we were saying, the mind is the state of unmanifestation, of Vyakta. When I wake up, I see the world, from where the world is coming. The external stimulity is activating the mind, and from that unmanifested mind, the informations which are as if popping up, through which that self is being projected and illumined as the world of name and form. So that's the idea which we say. So Prakriti, Vikriti. Vikriti is the modifications of the Prakriti. So this, apart from that, the self is something separate from that. Just in a projector, there's a light which is falling on the reel. The reel is having all the pictures. The reel is moving and the light is falling on that, and then the same light falling on the reel now is projected on the screen to create this wonderful panorama, this vision of so many things in the form which each of which has a particular name, a particular form. The light is being projected through the reel, and I see the mountains, the trees, the rivers, the buildings, everything I am seeing, a wonderful panorama. But it is nothing but the light which is being projected through this reel. The reel is like those informations in our mind. It is revolving. A particular information is popping up. That's being projected by the self to be projected at last in the screen as the world of name and form. So whatever is popping up from the unmanifested Avyakta Prakriti, that's the Vikriti, and that's being projected as the universe. It starts from your body to the universe. When I'm seeing my body, the same thing is happening. Is this body also the idea that I am this body? After all, it is the mind which is seeing the body. So from Deha, from your what is going on within in the psychophysical complex to the external world, everything is the Vikriti, the modification of Prakriti, which is dormant. That's modified as this Deha to the external universe. Everything is a Vikriti. So this, but self is something that's like just in the projector, the light is separate from the reel, which is rotating. So it is something separate. So here also the idea is the self is something separate from Prakriti and Vikriti. This Prakriti and Vikriti, in technical terms, we will try to discuss a little more elaborately. First, let us go through the entire verse, and then we will take up these phrases one by one. So Prakriti, Vikriti is separate from Prakriti and Vikriti. Shuddha Bodha Svabhava. It is the pure awareness. The pure awareness, when you see that white light is like that pure, there is no distortion there. The moment it falls on the reel, then that white light is getting distorted, and that is the distorted light is projected as the objects of name and form. So by itself, it is something pure, unadulterated awareness. It is just the awareness. Pure, Shuddha, this nature of pure intelligence, without any modifications. Sat, Asat, Idam, Ashesham, Bhasayan, Nirvishesha. Whatever I am seeing, whatever is being illuminated, whether it is something Asat, here Asat doesn't mean unreal. Asat means the cause, the causal. Sat means something as the effect, the which I can see. When I am seeing the red flower, that example which we give again and again, that so many things of which that red flower is composed, many attributes together define that flower. It has a particular color, it has a particular shape, it has a particular fragrance. When you touch it, it has a particular texture. All this together define the flower. If you take one by one, that's the thing I am never aware of. Do I see the color separately? Do I see the shape separately? When I see the color, automatically I have to see the shape. But it is all these components, tan matras, tat matras, they conglomerate to give the shape of the flower. So the light is illuminating each of the components, and those components conglomerate. Again, the light is illuminating the conglomerate. So that way, the same light which illumines first the components, the same light which is again illuminating the conglomerate. So now you will understand what it is saying, that Sat, Asat, Idam, Ashesham. Whatever I see, Ashesham means whatever I see, whether it is something subtle, with my eyes I cannot perceive, but the sense is perceiving it. But the self is perceiving it. Without the self perceiving them, I can see nothing. So Asat, all the causal things, and all Sat, all the things which is the effect of that tangible universe, everything bhasayan, is being illumined by the self. It itself is nirvishesha. Nirvishesha. The word vishesha means adjective. Whenever I define an object, I can never define the object in its essence. I can never know. Whenever I define an object, it is all the adjectives which defines that object. Like the flower is red. That red is an adjective. It has such and such shape. That shape is again an adjective. So all these adjectives define the thing. But can I define the thing in itself? No. The moment I try to know a thing, immediately the mind projects all those attributes, being illumined by the self, to create a sensation of that objects of name and form. By the self itself is beyond all those components, though it is appearing as those components, but it is beyond all those components. So beyond all those attributes. So that's why it is nirvishesha. It is illuminating everything, but it itself has no attributes. Very nicely, Sri Ramakrishna is giving an example that we cannot say give any attribute to the ultimate self. We cannot say it is good or it is bad. What example he is giving? That in the sunlight, one person is reading the scripture and another person is counterfeiting the currency notes. So both the acts are done being illumined by the sun. Can I for that give credit to the sun that this because of sun this person is reading holy book? Or can I criticize the sun because in its light someone is counterfeiting the coin? Sun is as it is. It is beyond attributes. The attributes all is in the domain of this objective phenomenon. The self by which it is illumined is beyond all those attributes. I can neither say it is good, nor it is bad, nor it is evil, nor it is something pious, nor all those adjectives doesn't in any way define the self. The self is behind that. That's the idea of nirvishesha. Vilasati paramatma jagrat adishu avasthasu. So, vilasati, this in the waking and other states. What waking and other state means? There are three states. Jagrata, Swapna, Shushupti. In the waking state, Swapna is the dream state and Shushupti is the deep sleep state. So, it is something which is beyond that. Sporting, Vilasati is beyond that. How it is sporting? The Paramatma, beyond these three states, is always sporting as the I, aham, iti. So you will find that when the experience of the dream state contradicts the experiences of the waking state. When I wake up, I realize it was a dream. Oh, it was something dream. Those experiences in relation to the waking state, I say, oh, they are all unreal. But when I was dreaming, that was very real to me. I never thought, in the dream I never think that I am dreaming. It is. I know, at that time I know they are very real. So what I am experiencing, that cannot be the criteria of reality, because we find that when I am in deep sleep, its experience is contradicted by that when I am in waking state, and again that is contradicted by the experiences when I am in the dream state. But what is something which is the common factor behind all? Aham iti. The idea of that, the ego. When the self gets reflected in the body-mind complex, the ego is generated. I feel I am this body-mind complex. The reflection of the self in the body-mind complex is the ego. And that ego is witnessing all the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Shushupti. Though I know the experiences are contradicting each other, but do I ever have the doubt that it is the same me who was experiencing the experiences in the dream is different from the me who experiences the experience of the waking state. No, it is the same me. So that's the me, which there is a self as this idea of aham, as a sense of I, is vilasati, is sporting in all the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Aham iti shakshat shakshi rupena buddhi. Just as a witness, it is the experiencing all these various states of our existence. So that's with that he will be concluding this section, that what is the self. So now, as we told, that we will take the phrases part by part to elaborate them a bit more. So what is Prakriti, Vikriti, Vinna? Prakriti, as we told, is the unmanifest, is the primordial matter, and Vikriti are the evolutes. So just we discussed this so many times, that what are the evolutes? Then from Prakriti first comes the Mahat or the Buddhi, the first principle of the individualization, the intelligence, from which comes Buddhi is the, you can say the collective, that there is only one mind, the cosmic mind. So this cosmic mind is the Mahat. From that comes the Ahamkara, the ego, the individual egos, from that. And then from this ego, as nature has three gunas, sattva, raja, tama. From the sattvic component of it evolves the mind, the 5 organs of perception. From the rajasic part of it, the 5 organs of action. And from the tamasic part, the tanmatras, the 5 tanmatras. Tatmatra, that there are 5 types of perceptions. The sight, the sound, the smell, the taste, the touch. When they are not getting synthesized with other perceptions, they are called tatmatra, tanmatra. As we told again and again, when I am seeing anything, it's not as a composite whole the perception happens. The flower has a color, it has a shape, it has a texture, it has a smell. It's not that all those things are being perceived by the mind in one center. All this, the texture is perceived when I touch it. The sensation of touch, for that a separate center is there. For the smell, a separate center is there. For the color, a separate center. Even to see the shape, that has a different center. So then all these centers that it perceives, that's tanmatra. If it was only in the state of tanmatra, I would have perceived nothing. There would have been chaos. But the mind has the capacity now to conglomerate that all. The synthetic whole which I see is not outside there. It happens in the mind. All this, that the example which we can give, we can understand easily, that when I am watching a movie, I am seeing the characters speaking in the screen. But is it really the character speaking in the screen? No. We all know with our common science that the lips movement of course is there on the screen. That's what I am watching. But the sound is coming from the sound box. In the mind, these two are synthesized to give me a feeling that the character is speaking. So the same thing is happening in the mind with all our perception. Then all these piecemeal perceptions, these piecemeal perceptions are the tanmatras. They conglomerate to create a sense of whole. So that speaks of the panchabhuta. So all this comes from the tamasic aspect. So now you will find that the Prakriti has, once it comes in association with the self, it projects itself first as that cosmic intelligence, where all the informations are there. Just that example again we give, that our mind is a part of the cosmic mind. It's just like the internet. In internet, all informations are there. It is a collective storehouse of all informations, of which I create my individuality. How? Most probably I am a law student. So what I will do, all the informations which pertains to my study, that I download. And that creates my individuality. So Mahat is the collection of everything. And when the Ahankara comes, the individuality comes, now from that only a particular aspect of that cosmic whole, that becomes my personality. that I as if download. And then that becomes my mind, which is being activated by these external stimuli to be this information when it pops up to give me the knowledge of that particular information, and that's what I call the world. So now I will understand that all these evolutes are called the Vikriti, and the unmanifested Prakriti is the Prakriti which has been indicated. So the self is something beyond that. Shuddha Bodha, it is of the nature of pure awareness. And then Sat Asat Idam, as we read, it illumines both the gross and the subtle universe. The Sat is the effect, the gross visible universe, and Asat is the cause, the subtle, Nirvishesha, beyond all attributes. Vilasati Paramatma Jagrat Adisu Avastha. So the three changing states, the waking, dream and deep sleep, they have the one changes Atman that illumines them all. So what we just now discussed, just summarizing it, and then Aham iti Shakshasha. So the I sense we experience in the waking, dream and the deep sleep state is the consciousness reflected on Buddhi as the witness self. The same I who is experiencing the experiences of the waking state is the same I who is experiencing the experiences of the dream state, is the same I which is experiencing nothing in the deep sleep state. That's why when I wake up, I say, I had a very nice sleep. I had no sensation. So this, from where this memory is coming, unless there was someone who is witnessing. So the same I is a witness of all these three states. So this Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya concludes the answer to the disciples' question that what is the self. And the next verse, which we will take up today to conclude today's discussion, is the way to realize the self. So that's the sanam bonam of our spiritual journey, how to realize the self. Because once we realize that, all our purpose in life is achieved. We get the fulfillment beyond which there is no other fulfillment. Parama Prapti. So that will be spoken of in this verse. What it is saying? Niyamita manasa amum tvam swam atmanam atmani. So what we spoke about the self is not mere academic knowledge. In academic knowledge, I read something, yes, then I can say no. But here, for spiritual thing, it has to be something internalized. It has to become something part and parcel of our being, so that it overhauls our personality. Our total personality gets transformed as per the knowledge of the scriptures. From that knowledge, when it becomes a part and parcel of it. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, what's the real education? It's not gathering of information. Nowadays, any information is available in the internet. So this gathering of information, just if I ask you anything, immediately you can go to the internet and you can immediately give me the answer. And nowadays, of course, this artificial intelligence is also there. So that way, there were days where the one who knew a lot of things was considered as learned. In Swamiji's time, the one who had knew a lot of things is called learned. But Swamiji, how nice in those days is giving the definition. He says he's not the one who has this information can be considered as a learned person. Who is a real knowledgeable person? Take up one idea, live it, dream it, assimilate it. Let that become the part and parcel of your life. And then he used to give an example so that your life gets transformed. You did not know many things. That one thing, hold on to it and let that transform you. And that he used to give an example of the mollusk, which from which we get the pearl. That a particular type of mollusk, when it gets irritated by the sand particle, it will dive deep into the ocean or in the river bed and will start salivating over the irritant, the sand particle. Goes on salivating. And in course of time, that all this saliva which has been has been salivated over that irritant, that sand particle, they get condensed. They become something like a crystal. And that's what the pearl is. So Swamiji is giving that example to say that's what we have to do. We have to constantly go on cogitating upon all the ideas of the self just we have now heard, till we get converted into that pearl. Our life gets transformed. Our each and every reflex gets transformed. And that speaks of the awareness of the self in each and every moment of our life. And that's what he's saying. This amum means, the word amum in this sloka means that whatever we have studied about the self, what you have to do, niyamita manasa, you have to cogitate upon it through sravana, manana, nididhyasa. First I hear it. All the ideas doesn't get clear the way I hear it. I have to have shraddha, that when the ideas don't get clear, there are two options. I can simply reject it as nonsense. Or I can have the humility, sufficient humility to recognize the fact the one who is saying is not a hypocrite. He has no ulterior motive. He has went to a particular realization, and out of unbounded love for the humanity, he is coming back and relating it. He is relating the truth from such a level of awareness where I cannot relate with my limited spiritual awareness in the present. I cannot relate to that. I am not of that. I don't have that high understanding, but I have the faith in that person. Just the way we acquire any knowledge in any subject. When Swamiji used to say, that's why that nowadays the materialistic superstition is something more dangerous than the religious superstition. If I say Vyasa said something, Patanjali said something, immediately I will doubt. What's the proof? And will start questioning that these are all bogus. But if someone says Newton said this, Einstein said this, immediately Swamiji is saying we don't need even a pinch of salt. That for having food, to make the food tasty, we always add salt. Without salt, the food has no taste. But Swamiji is saying that scientific superstition is such, the moment we hear that from such and such universities, from such and such academic field, someone has said, immediately we believe. We forget one thing, that even in science, we will find constantly that today's propositions are encountered, are totally nullified after a few decades by some other scientists. But we will find as the human beings, whenever anything is coming out from this university, immediately we take it to be something authentic. So it also speaks of a superstition. But at the same time, unless we take them as true, we can never proceed in our journey. It's only after we take it as true and we just go on with our education, go to the higher and higher level of our studies, then gradually the meaning of what was being told becomes something palpable. There's a common example we give. If I just try to say that there's the laws of gravitation, G, this m into m by r square. If I ask a small child, and a small child asks, just prove it for me. It's very difficult. Or E is equal to mc square, that energy and mass, prove it for me. I cannot. This child has to take it as a working principle and has to progress in his studies till he goes to the higher level of his education where he can really deduce. Now he has acquired sufficient knowledge to understand the deduction. So what it speaks of, first he should have faith. If he simply rejects that these are all nonsense, he cannot progress in his education. So Sravana means first I hear, Manana means now I take them to be true. I believe they are true. And then I start cogitating, that I, with full humility, accept the fact that I don't have the sufficient awareness to understand everything, but what has been told, it speaks of the truth. Let me try to cogitate upon it again and again, so that the cobwebs of my mind gets cleared off. That's what Swami Vivekananda used to say. When he used to teach the Upanishads to the brahmacharis. He told, it is not going to give you God realization. Then why are we studying it? It will remove the cobwebs of your mind. The more you cogitate, the more the idea of the self becomes palpable. Then is it all? No. Though all at last you will have an intellectual conviction, all the doubts will fall off. You will be aware of the fact that there is something called self. But now you have to make it a part of your life. That is the nididhyasana. Go on meditating upon it. Go on meditating upon it. Till all your reflex changes. As in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you'll find the reflex changes. That when we see a coin, the entire humanity will grab for it. That's what we are doing. We are going to grab money. And when in his period of spiritual sadhana, what was the nididhyasana? That as he was a priest, he used to get a salary, and the salary he had to take. He will sign, his signature is still there in the old the books in Dakshineshwar. You can see his signature. He has signed, taken the money, and then he will take a clod of earth, soil, mix these two, that soil, and both are useless, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. Sama loštashma kanchana. He will mix and throw it in the Ganges, thinking that his money is as useless as a lump of soil. So that is the nididhyasana. And at what it resulted in? His reflexes change. You will find in his later life, even unknowingly, the coin touches his body, he will jump up. Any metal. He couldn't touch any metal. He used to take food always in the banana leaf. He will take all this, his tumbler will be the clay tumblers. He couldn't touch metal. So the reflex was just the opposite. It became like a tortoise, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. That generally when we see the sense objects, our limbs move out. But in the tortoise, what we see, when it sees the danger outside, its limbs are withdrawn. Kurmongani va sarvasha. That we find in the life of Ramakrishna. The reflex changes by nididhyasana. Once he is convinced of the fact that these are useless, that has become a part and parcel of his life. His entire behavioral pattern has changed. His character has changed. So that is the nididhyasana. And that's what is being spoken of here. Niyamita. By constantly cogitating upon your intellectual conviction. After you hear the scriptures, you go on cogitating, and then gradually the idea becomes clear, and then on this intellectual conviction, accordingly you start leading your life. Day in, day out. That is the niyamita. And that speaks of manasa, niyamita manasa, amum tvam. Swam atmanam atmani ayam ahamiti shakshat viddhi buddhi prasadat. So this buddhi prasadat is what it speaks, that we should have a conviction. That as we are saying, that when you have shraddha, then the first thought what will be coming? That yes, it is not impossible. That this buddhi prasada speaks of what? By the grace of the buddhi, which is devoid of all kinds of defects, in the form of asambhavana, viparita bhavana, samshaya. Very nice terms, asambhavana, that it is impossible. Oh, scripture is speaking of something where just for 2 days I practice, and then I find that it's in no way giving me any tranquility, peace. I'm not finding any change in my life. I say, oh, it's all useless. Asambhavana, it is impossible. Viparita bhavana, or I may develop some wrong comprehension. Just like the Asura, when he was instructed about the self, he was convinced with the idea that his body is the self, and started just nourishing his own body. He has no idea of there was no evolution to really understand what the real self is. It was a Virochana. Indra went for his further studies. So this Viparita Bhavana speaks of wrong comprehension. Samshaya, doubt. If you don't have Shraddha, you will have doubt. Is it really possible? Is all the things which the scripture is saying, are they really something true, or is it just some imagination of the mind, fertile brain, having no substance in it? All the Samshaya, That speaks of the lack of buddhi prasada. With a conviction, we have to proceed and then cogitate upon it, nihamita manasa. And then what will happen? That will take you to that ultimate realization which finds expression as a transformation in your life. Your total reflexes changes. You become a total different person. Your personality is overhauled. So that's being indicated even in the Upanishad. What is saying that how to attain that state, as in the Kathopanishad says, drishyate tu agraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhi. This is comprehended by single pointed subtle intellect. So even in the other Svetashwara Upanishad, the same thing. Jnana prasadena vishuddha sattva tatastutam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamana. So this clarity of this knowledge is attained by being established in that pure sattva. When your contemplation becomes ripened, it becomes pure sattva. So now when I am trying to meditate, it is either contaminated by rajas, my mind is restless, or tamas. If somehow I can quiet the mind a little, it goes to deep sleep. By constant practice, what will happen? The restlessness will go, but it will not immediately, when the restlessness is gone, it will not go to the tamas, sleep state. It will be in that awareness. Neither it is going to the tamas, nor it is becoming, and your meditation has become like a flow. That's the idea of Vishuddha Sattva. And then you attain the Jnana Prasada, the constant, this contemplation, constant focus with an awareness. And that will lead you to the realization of the Nishkala, the one who is without part, with that type of dhyana, with that type of meditation, as has been indicated in the Svetashvatara Upanishad. And then what you realize, Sa Atma Tattvamasi, that this self is nothing but the Brahman, is one with that absolute reality. And then what happens? Then all your so-called, the cause of our bondage breaks. What's the fruition? What's the result of it? That's spoken of in the second line. What is this? This is Jani Marana Taranga Apara Samsara Sindhum Pratara. You cross beyond this ocean of our worldly existence, which speaks of Janama Marana. It's go beyond birth and death, and you get ever fulfilled. That's the fulfillment which you can get from nothing else. The ultimate fulfillment comes with the realization of the self. When you find that all the delusion has fallen off, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita, yang labdhva chaparang labham manyate nadhikam tata. When you attain that state, you will find nothing other things can be higher than what you have attained. It's the ultimate fulfillment that will give you the ultimate spiritual fulfillment. You will find nothing in the world can disturb you. You are always one with the self, which is the witness, which is not getting affected by anything. Being established in that, you transcend all the dualities of life. So that's the idea. We will continue with the discussion a little more of this verse before we proceed to the next verse in the next class. So with this, we conclude our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.